Draco here, and welcome back to Why, the show where I don't always have an answer to that question. So we're continuing the Rokr treasure box from where we left off. So, I'm still trying the new format. I haven't gotten any comments whether people like it or they don't like it. The video, I think, I'm just going to click over. Looks like it hasn't even gotten any views, even though it went public yesterday, but that's okay, so we're going to keep going. So here you see me using a scalpel to pop this apart. And, I did this a few times for pieces I was afraid were going to break, because this piece in particular, if you notice those wavy cuts, that's to make it flexible, because as you see, this piece is actually going to be bendable. And, this is just going to go to show how little I actually know about wood and woodworking, because I did not realize you could cut wood in such a way that it became flexible. I mean, it makes sense because I've seen a similar trick when they make those, what do you call them, potato tornadoes. I've seen people do it with pieces of paper, so it makes sense you could do it with something rigid like wood, but still it was a surprise to me. So, anyway, so that aside, while that's going on, I figure I'll ramble about other stuff. So, I'm a big fan of BattleBots. I'm never going to deny it because, 250-pound robots smashing into each other is just, it's chaos and it's fun. So, having said that, have you all been keeping up with it like I have? Because, you know, after last year, because I talked about it in, I think it's one of the build your own warhead videos, I think it was, about how controversial the one match. Well, there were a whole bunch of controversial matches last year. But in particular, it was the match between Hydra and Tantrum, because Hydra played it defensively and really didn't use their weapon. And they ended up losing, and the judge's explanation was because they really didn't fire their weapon that much and cause that much damage. Well, Tantrum and Hydra had their rematch fight, and Tantrum managed to win the exact same way they beat Witch Doctor. Their puncher spinner, when they got up under him, they ripped up their bottom, and Hydra got high centered on its own armor. And that's a pretty valid and intelligent strategy, because it minimizes, if executed well, it'll minimize their exposure, it'll minimize how much they use their weapon motors. Anyway, so talking about this real quick, you see on that sheet, if you look really closely, you'll see on the various part sprues. Well, wait, do these count as sprues? I don't really know. Anyway, but some of the numbers are it has multiples of the same number with a plus next to them. It turns out all of those are extra parts just in case something breaks or you lose something. So these guys are Rokr, and I'm probably not pronouncing that correctly, but they, make a fairly quality product, and including giving you lots of spare parts as needed, which was very kind of them. And there were a few instances I didn't realize I had spare parts until it was far too late to go back and replace them. Because with the wood, I'm not a super expert on wood, but I do know the more you separate them and try to stick them back together, the less they're going to go together. I mean, that's the nature of all any kind of joints. The more you move them and take them apart, the weaker they're going to get over time. Doesn't matter if we're talking about models, toys, houses, cars, anything. Joints are always one of your weakest places. So, trying to think. The last time we talked about, I think I rambled mainly about the new format for Y and see how this holds up. Probably should put it in shorts because I get most of my views through shorts. But anyway, myself musing, well, man, that's one of the dumber things I've said. Musing to myself aside, that's a better sentence. So I'm thinking in the next few days I'm going to film the next Transformer video because I think I found something in my collection just random enough to make any of you who are not big into Transformers go, what? Although it is a third-party Transformer, but we can talk about the third-party versus knockoff thing later. So anyway, so Metroid Prime Remastered came out, and it's just as much fun as I remember. As I had the original back on the GameCube. That was the reason I got a GameCube, was because I wanted Metroid Prime. Didn't really care about Super Mario Sunshine or some of the other titles, or what was it, Pikmin? But yeah, Metroid Prime, because it was one of them games that it genuinely benefited from going 3D. Of course, they screwed it up in Other M, but that's a different story for a different day. So anyway, now I'm recording this after I worked all night, so I'm going to ask for pardons if this is just a stream of consciousness that really doesn't make a lot of sense. So I was looking, I saw Hasbro announced a Gen Selects re-release of, what was it? Was it Combiner Wars or Titan's Return? Or no, it was Blast Effect. It was Earthrise Omega Supreme in the Guardian robot colors. That actually looks really cool, but I'm not going to pay $179 for it. I could just buy an Omega Supreme, one of those Year of the Snake ones, and paint it myself if that were the case. It's actually not a bad idea for a project. So anyway, I'm saying that a lot, so don't mind me. Like I said, I worked all night. Because I prefer to work nights, there's going to come a point where I get older and I'm going to need to work days, but not there yet. So, since I'm going to be that guy and start fishing for engagement, is there any any products y'all want me to build? Model kits, Lego, anything that you'd like to see me build for any reason? Because I see them a lot on YouTube and TikTok. those not Lego anime swords, and I'd like to get a set of those. Not sure what though, because my go-to would be One Piece, Zoro's swords, but his swords are kind of plain compared to like the swords from Demon Slayer. But I'm not a big fan of Demon Slayer. I mean, it's not bad. It's a good show. It's just it didn't appeal to me like it did other people. No hate, like I said, it's a good show. It's just not my thing. Now I reckon talking about this wood thing we're building here. Um, One thing that I noted is like those little tiny dowels going into the holes. It honestly was a lot easier to get those in where they're supposed to when you laid the pieces flat on the desk. And this is something I thought was really cool because this is a credit to this company that they literally are saving as many pieces as they can by, layering this big cog with the smaller cog holding several other cogs. I just said cog a lot. I don't think anyone has said cog that much outside since the Jetsons. Oh man, I am dating myself on that because my exposure to the Jetsons is that used to come on Cartoon Network because I remember my family had just moved and we had Prime Star satellite TV, as if you need evidence of how old I actually am, if you've ever heard of Prime Star. But I remember that because I remember that was a Cartoon Network. I vaguely remember they would play the Flintstones and the Jetsons and all them old shows at night. And then they started making their own cartoons and those got the night slots. Anyway, so I'm not sure when the next episode of the Transformers show is coming out. Because, like I said, I have the idea for it, I just have to figure out how to film it. There, sorry about the awkward pause. Chloe was making some noise, so I was checking on her. I could cut this out and just do new audio, but we got a little less than 4 minutes of video. So I don't think 30 seconds of music is going to hurt anything. So let's see, I'm trying to think of other stuff to discuss. Because I have Game Pass on my Xbox, I downloaded Atomic Heart. So far, that's been it reminds me very much of BioShock, and that's not a bad thing. The first BioShock was excellent. The second BioShock was okay. It wasn't The story and the characters weren't as good, but the gameplay was better. And then Bioshock Infinite, I'm going to go against the grain and actually say I think Bioshock Infinite was the weakest entry in the trilogy. Because in my opinion, for what it's worth, I felt like the story was trying too hard to be both shocking and meaningful. They're trying to recapture that would you kindly moment. And because they're trying way too hard to recapture lightning in a bottle, they just fail. Fail very, very hard. Because just the setup for the game, as I forget, it's about an hour in, basically telegraphs the big twist that, and it's a game that came out a while ago, so I am not spoiling anything, that Booker is Comstock. And then the whole, and then the DLC follow-up, I think it was a great improvement because it went back to Rapture. And the story was a little more, I think it was a little better, but I don't know. It's like I said, they were just trying too hard to recapture magic that they didn't have. Especially when I think, honestly, the ending of Bioshock 2, I think, opened up far more possibilities that they could have explored instead of going into left field with a new location that's basically exactly the same as Rapture, just in the sky instead of underwater. Because it was beautifully designed, but, and to cap off this closing thought, it was beautifully designed, but it was creatively, I'm not going to say bankrupt, but creatively diminished because they were trying to recapture lightning in a bottle. Anyway, that's about as far as this video is going to go. Thanks for watching. If my stream of consciousness wasn't too bad, part 3 is coming up.